Control the ball!
Welcome to Crypto Revolution Talk.
Not me! Or you!
With your host, El Crypto Cubano.
Not you! Then who?
Legal disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Do your own fucking research. This is simply news and opinions. Welcome to another episode of Crypto Revolution Talk. This is your host, El Crypto Cubano. Happy fucking Friday. So, I'll tell you what, this market can drive you nuts sometimes, but right now, BTC seems like it's like on a bit of an uptrend, but we'll see. It's just probably more BARTs. It's up and down. We'll just have to track it. But things are looking pretty good. I'm still bullish. I was just having a conversation with our guest today actually about that, about why I'm bullish, and we'll get into that, and we'll get into some other stuff. So anyway, this is John Wicks, Crypto Kane, 42 on. What's going on, man? Dojo contributor. You're pretty knowledgeable guy. How you doing, man?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's a privilege and an honor to have you on, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, how'd you get into crypto? Like, what got you started? What was your, what's your story?
Well, I first actually came across Bitcoin it was 2012, believe it or not. I was digging around. I think the story starts with a lot of people about the dark web, and you find your way to Silk Road. Then you start looking at all the possibilities and everything. I actually never did anything on Silk Road. It was more of just I was very fascinated by this whole world that I didn't know really existed. I mean, but you really don't know.
Yeah.
And that's when I came across Bitcoin. Honestly, had no idea what it was. Started looking into it and everything like that. Very, very superficial. Nothing real visceral on it. Kind of disregarded it just because I don't really have an explanation why. Maybe I just wasn't interested at the time too. I was living in Arizona, chasing girls and stuff like that.
That's the life. The life.
Yeah. So I had a bunch of other stuff going on, running businesses and stuff. But fast forward, I 2013 again noticed it. Almost bought Bitcoin. At that point, it was around $3.30, and this was around September 2013. Didn't do it, and that's when it went through that first initial boom. And a couple months later, it was at I think it was over $1,000.
Oh wow!
So yeah, I believe it if my memory serves me correct. But again, didn't buy any. Just kind of watched, forgot about it actually until 2017, about February. I was in Taiwan because I had been living overseas. I left the United States in late 2015, early 2016. Took up residence in Vietnam, believe it or not.
Oh wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, was living in Saigon for a while, working over there. But I was in Taiwan visiting my buddy, and he had already been into Ethereum. So the actual first coin, technically, I mean, I bought Bitcoin, but I was more interested in Ethereum at the time. I guess because of the possibility of it making me rich instantly. Yeah. So the first true coin I really bought besides Bitcoin was Ethereum, and I think like everybody else. And I bought a little Litecoin too, and that kind of started me down the rabbit hole of cryptocurrencies.
Nice, and I'm sure you made a killing on both of those coins.
I did pretty good on Ethereum. The problem was I didn't truly understand the idea of the Satoshi, how Satoshis work. So I was one of those people that got caught looking at the USD in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
You learn the hard way.
You know, that's how I was too. Specifically with Ethereum and Litecoin when I first got in, I just looked at the US dollar value and I watched it grow. But then, like, when I really started getting into alt trading, like, you know, branching out from Coinbase pretty much, you know, it was like that's when I started to trade in Satoshi, and it changed my entire perspective on the market. But yeah, fucking A, yeah, that's so funny. I guess that's how everybody starts. Maybe the majority, but awesome. Yeah, that's so. You know, what was your first lesson that you learned? Like, what was your first mistake? I know we've all made some brutal trading mistakes or got into a coin that just absolutely wrecked us. What was your first one?
So the first mistake was not understanding how Satoshis work, definitely, because I was trying to trade altcoins and nothing special, and I was like, in my head, I'm seeing the USD value go up, but I had less Bitcoin. I was like, I'm trying to figure this out. So that was my first mistake, was understanding why I was looking at USD and I thought I was making a successful trade, but then the amount of Bitcoin that I was recouping was less. So that was a pretty bad mistake. I also, during that crazy summer run of Ethereum where it peaked in 2017 above $400,
yep.
I definitely bought the top of Ethereum.
Yeah,
at that time.
I think I did the same thing, man. To be honest, because that's when I first got in. Yeah.
So that was after that, though. That was kind of the lesson I needed to really initiate me to dive in and try to really understand what it is I'm doing here. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I had a trade with Litecoin once where I thought I bought the top, and then it went up, and I sold it like 10%. Because I was like, oh, okay, this is close to the top. And then it ended up going to like $300, you know. And I'm talking like I bought it at $100 and then I sold it at like $110. And I was like, I think it's done. You know, I think that's going to, and you know, people make mistakes like that. You know, it happens like that. But so what was your first big break? What got you to where you're at now? And we'll also get into some other things, you know. But like I know you had some setbacks, but like what was your first big break that was like your first great trade that made you a nice payday?
I mean, as with a lot of people, I feel like because of the time, it was Neo, which was Ant shares. I was fortunate enough. This is a funny story. So again, I was still in Taiwan at the time. All I had was an iPad with me, and the whole Chinese Ethereum talk was started. So I bought into the hype. I mean, looked into the project, and I was like, okay, this definitely has potential. I was fortunate enough to get Ant shares below $5, pretty sizable position, and then you know we all know what happened a month later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's wow. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, especially over January when that thing, you know.
Yeah. That I held through all of that though. That's the thing. I didn't when it hit the 55 USD mark and then basically almost halved itself. I was still holding on to it because of the whole, you know, gas and everything like that. So yeah. I saw the value in it there, because once I did the math, when I knew how much Neo I had and how much gas I would be getting, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna hold this. And understanding the actual true value of gas is what led me to that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's great. That I had Neo at one point. Definitely didn't hold it long enough to get gas because I kind of swung trade it and you know, wasn't a huge position, but it was, you know, it was like a, you know, it's like a little swing trading percentage I had in my portfolio that, you know, I tried, and I can't stomach it. You know, not every trader can. I'm more of a buy and hold, but I've tried. I've dabbled with it and I've gotten killed. Or I've done well as well. Neo, I did pretty good, but other coins I've gotten absolutely killed. But yeah, so what do you feel about the market right now? Are you feeling bearish or bullish? What's your sense?
You know, and this is probably not the best answer. I'm rather neutral at the moment because I feel like we're in this. generally when people talk about price discovery, they're almost referring to like a blue sky breakout or a coin's new all-time high. But it seems like Bitcoin is in this range. And is there enough momentum to carry it through this range where we break 8,000, or are we going to go back down and test 7,000? So I'm overall bullish on the space, and then I'm not too concerned with the intraday movements. So, but right now I'm just I'm adapting to what the market gives me. So you could say that I'm bullish, but I consider myself more neutral at the moment than anything.
I hear you. You're long-term bullish, pretty much. Sounds like to me, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. You know, what's going on right now with the news you hear with Goldman Sachs and Circle and that coming up. Like I'm thinking, like 12 to 18 months from now, all of that's going to be operating smoothly. It's going to be a machine, just like scammy Goldman Sachs is. But as I was telling you earlier, what are banks' bread and butter? Interest rates, whatever they can make off of that, and fees. And, exchanges make tons of money on fees. Like, look at Binance. Like, it became $1 billion company within a year. It was like humongous. It's crazy. And they see that, and they're just absolutely, shocked. And it's unreal. It's unreal. It's how quickly it exploded. And now you're going to be dealing with banks that are, part of the central banks. Like if you look at the Federal Reserve, a lot of the people that work there and then the chairman, they usually have a history at Goldman Sachs or another, major financial institution. So they're going to use that strong arm because they're, I see them as government, and that's just how I see them. They're part of that machine, the oligarchs. I see them using their power to absolutely create mass adoption to this market. So I'm very bullish. I'm very bullish with all this news coming out. But that's what a lot of people are scared about getting into the market because a lot of people aren't tech savvy and a lot of people aren't very optimistic with it because they're scared of stuff like hacks and stuff like that. And I know like good thing to mention that. But I know it's very unfortunate what happened to you. That's something we wanted to talk about. You had an issue with a hacking, and then just absolutely terrifying. Like just talking about it with you and hearing about it like gets my stomach sick because I just couldn't even imagine that happening. And I've had scares. with a 2FA, with my phone updating, and I just had another scare. But luckily 2FA, Apple 2FA, top notch. I stopped it from happening. So. But what exactly happened, and tell me like what's it been like coming back from that?
So I multiple laptops, like I think most of the people in this space do, or desktops, whatever you're using. I was staking coins at the time on the one laptop. I'm still kind of unclear on how it all happened, but I do think that I had a rootkit dropped on the laptop from either I was phished or maybe I downloaded a bad wallet. I'm not too sure. It was definitely a rootkit. I had some help with a security specialist, and he went in and found it and used the Sentinel program. We got it out, but the hacker was able to get onto my laptop as if he was sitting in front of it, and so he was obviously monitoring my movements. And then he just waited for me to go to bed. Now, he was in another country, judging by the times that he was active. And even though his VPN masked where he was, I could just tell he was in another country. So I had woke up, and I had a bunch of notices on my cell phone about both my Gmail accounts and one of even my Proton Mail accounts that I didn't have 2FA on at the time, which is totally dumb move, were compromised. It said that the recovery email and recovery phone numbers had been changed. I actually knew immediately what this meant because I had left my browser open and because I was staking, he was able to go into Chrome, into the settings, and just change everything without having to log in because I was already signed into Chrome. So once he did that, he fully compromised my emails. And because of the way Chrome works, if you have saved tabs and favorites and files that you can quick access, he was able to port over all of that information to his computer as if he had created the files on his browser, which is one of the negatives of Chrome. When you do like a copy the data from multiple devices, that's the risk you run, is that you're pulling all the exact data over. I didn't realize that at first. That's how Chrome works. So I've never signed into Chrome again. I don't recommend it, tell you the truth, because if you have multiple devices and you think it's convenient, which it is, it's a huge threat vector, knowing that that's how the system works. And it literally pulls all your cookies and all the websites that you visited. It shares them between all devices that you're logged in. So it was pretty bad. He got into not only my credit cards, he did get into my Binance account because of the saved cookie session. So he was able to bypass 2FA. Once a cookie session is saved, the computer thinks that you're still logged in. You don't need 2FA to access that account anymore. So that also leads me to why you need to clear your cache every night or every time before you log on. It's super important. Yeah.
That's thank you for saying that. I've never done that before, so that's something I'm going to have to do from now on. Just it's awareness on that and knowing how to protect yourself is huge. And obviously, it happened to you, and you're very on top of it now, and obviously you were on top of it then, but you just didn't do a couple things that are very important, and that I'm that way too right now. Like, there's a couple, like, I had an issue with, like I said, with Apple, but like I was, when I had a scare with my portfolio and I thought I was getting hacked, I checked my Google. I didn't have any of that stuff on either, so I hear you, and it was mine happened to be my phone updated, and it completely cleared out my my Google Authenticator, and I couldn't get onto any of my accounts. So I had to. It's it's crazy. It just it's very common in the space, and it's unfortunate. How have you bounced back so far? I mean, I know you've probably been able to get some trades in, and some I'm sure you were able to. You didn't lose everything, I know that, but I'm sure you'll be able to bounce back to an extent. How's that been going?
Yeah, it's still. I'm in, I guess, the recovery process. Luckily, I have a trading portfolio, and then I have, I guess, a long-term portfolio, or just three coins that I've told myself I will not touch because it's protection. It's like a hedge. So what happened was, once he got into my Binance account, where the majority of my trading stack was, he liquidated everything on there to Ethereum to try to withdraw it, which is where 2FA actually worked and prevented him from withdrawing. The problem is, the next day in March, this is when Ethereum completely crashed. So I was cut in half immediately. My BTC value for my trading stack was cut in half. So I lost all my positions in a lot of coins that performed admirably through the month of April. The silver lining was, it actually freed me from the mentality of sitting in coins in long-term positions. It completely reinvented my trading style and my understanding of how I look at projects and what we're actually doing here. So in a sense, it was almost like this major setback became this defining moment in like liberating me from how I had been trading. So I know it sounds weird, and I'm still technically down money from that experience, but in a sense, it's made me a far better trader.
Really?
Because of it. Yeah, it really has. So I don't thank him, but I thank the situation.
Yeah, I mean that's brutal to lose. I don't know how much. We don't need to talk about numbers or anything like that, but that's just sounds absolutely brutal to lose money to a hacker, and it's just happening right in front of you, and you can't do anything about it, or it happened and there's nothing you can do. It's
right.
It's those are some of the fears that people have, but I don't know. I think with the players that are coming into the game now, you're going to see tighter security. People are going to be able to keep their stuff in almost wallets everything's going to be in cold storage through whoever the company that owns the wallet. I mean, it's crazy. Like when you think about it, it's very centralized, but that's what's going to end up happening. I see everything blowing up. It's going to be unreal. But yeah, so so I hear you talking about how you had a long-term portfolio. Now you trade differently, but what are coins that you really like right now? Like, what is your top pick? What do you feel the most confident about in your portfolio?
Well, I mean, not to sound cliche, but obviously Bitcoin. I think that always needs to be mentioned. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin. Do we need to maybe go into why? I think people, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably very aware of Bitcoin, obviously, its importance and how it's just the fundamental backbone of crypto, the ecosystem on the whole. Ethereum's proven. It has a lot of issues, but it works, and it's proven that it works, not only for smart contracts, but the platform for launching ICOs and the network. It's proven its strength. Yes, everything has its hangups, and it does get bogged down at times, but these are the growing pains of an emerging technology. So I'm also, and I'll probably get a lot of flack for this, but EOS happens to be a project that I'm very interested in. For the sake of how their ICO structure is actually formed. And it's an interesting structure that I think it's going to give birth to other platforms adopting the same structure. And that's instead of me buying Ethereum and then sending it to an ICO for tokens, I just buy the token and hold it in a wallet, and then you give me a one-to-one airdrop.
Wow.
So I like that idea for getting into ICOs, only because we're seeing the war now for ICOs where everything's kind of shifting towards VC. These ICOs are getting wise, and they're going after VC money. It's to hurt the common man, which has always been the issue for IPOs in the stock market, that if you're not an accredited investor and you don't have enough chips, it's very hard for you to play in the big boys game. And that's what Ethereum was trying to do, was even out the playing field. But even so, as with everything with finance, it's getting taken over by big money.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying EOS is going to rectify it because they have a ton of issues on their own, but I like that structure of how to get the average guy into an ICO to possibly, have some nice returns.
Yeah, I hear you. That's why, I talked about it last show. I'll say it again. I don't want to talk about it for long, but that's why I like Menlo 1 for ICO right now. I really like that. This game has changed. I mean, when I first got in, ICOs weren't crazy popular. I got in August 2017. They were popular. People were buying into them, but it wasn't like how it is now, where you see a lot of venture capitalists and institutional money coming in, and it's essentially, they're pushing out the average Joe. But we just have to adapt and overcome, and new technologies are going to come out, innovation, and so we're all still going to prosper, I think. So, but I think it's a good thing that institutional money is getting in, because it's as we've talked about a couple times. So what about coins to avoid? What do you think is like a coin that anybody coming into the space should just, if they see it, just run for the hills?
This is such a tough question to answer, because I think I might have to describe, and this is going to sound very cynical, but I have this view that a lot of the projects in this space do not belong here. Don't need the blockchain, and I think that's starting to be shown, and people are getting wise to that. I guess the coins that I would try to avoid are, if they're promising you the world, million transactions per second, they're going to do all these fantastic things, and everybody's going to become their own bank, and they're going to tackle the giant issue of privacy, and we're going to the reduction of fees, which I do believe is necessary. But when a project starts using all these buzzwords that tell me they're going to promise me the world and this utopian dream, I'm like, okay, like what are we really doing here? Because if I look at a project, I want to know what's the problem in the real world that this project is actually trying to solve.
Yeah.
Those are and there's so many coins. Can I give you specific coins?
If you want.
It's really hard to, because from my point of view, the only coin really worth holding is Bitcoin. So
yeah,
I don't consider myself a maximalist, and I don't like to use the word scam so liberally, but it's kind of hard when I'm looking at a piece of paper with these words that are promising you the world, and I'm looking at it going, okay, well, this is just an idea. This is just a piece of paper with a bunch of words on it. Do the words make sense, and will other people buy into these words? Because that's kind of how I approach it. Trading in crypto is, who is going to see what I'm seeing, and then who's going to buy into it with the dream that it's promising. Two different angles there. So obviously be careful of the coins that everybody is heavily shilling on Twitter. The best case, I think, for this is Dragon Chain, where it's shilled every day, but because it's in the U.S. and because of what they're trying to do, it's another platform for ICOs to be launched. In my mind, that's the type of coin I would try to avoid. I think it went close to 60, 70x from ICO.
Oh yeah.
And it's just there's no use for it right now because they're stuck in the U.S. We have regulatory uncertainties. And for right now, you don't even need Dragon itself to invest in the ICOs that they're launching on the platform. So there is no value to holding Dragon except the slumber score, which hasn't even been determined what its actual use case is right now, besides a small bonus percentage to investing. But, that might upset a lot of people. But that's a coin that I avoid, is a coin like Dragon. Okay,
yeah, and that was a coin that I invested in. I remember I was long term.
I did too.
And I ended up selling at a small loss. I had a stop loss, but it is what it is. That's a good call. That's a good coin that is to avoid right now is Dragon, unless some catalyst comes around or some major news pertaining to it. Maybe a Trump tweet or something like that. I don't know, some bullshit. Who knows? Like Kanye will talk about it, and it'll move. Like
Trump tweeting. I've definitely read people's posts that they think Trump is going to tweet about Dragon Chain, which it would be hilarious if he did. So
it would, and that's something. I have a website, altcoincalls.com, and this podcast is under the name Altcoin Calls Podcast, Crypto Revolution Talk. And it's something that I really believe in the next 2 years, 90% of these coins won't exist.
Absolutely.
And that's something I strongly believe, and that's why I try to be very careful. Like I said, I'm not much of a trader. I'm more of an investor, and I try to be very careful which coins I get into because I want to hold long term, and I want to get into projects that I see doing really well. Like I see the space getting more into, like, with the financial institutions. So I see them. I try to go for stuff that I think is going to go up based on money coming in, and also that are going to create infrastructure for the space that'll help it. Like, I have some chain link that I still, that's been suffering, but I still believe in that. I have Juan obviously is a great project, and
I like Juan. I'm a big Juan fan.
And I'm still holding cash. It's getting harder and harder to hold it, but it's it's like and that's the growing pains of the space. Sometimes stuff gets delayed. It's like any venture, any business, like, stuff happens, but it doesn't happen to every business. Like some of these coins have done really well. Just others had their day, and now they're just kind of sitting near the bottom or at the bottom or in the middle. Who knows? But yeah. So I think it's gonna come down to 10% of these coins, maybe less. But that's why I try to go after coins that are gonna be around. But
I agree.
Yeah. So I see you on Twitter. At CryptoCane42. John Wicks is your name. So when you got on Twitter, who was the guy? Who did you follow the most? Like, if there was anybody even on Twitter that made you money? Because I know you said you try to avoid Twitter, but is there anybody that actually gave you some knowledge on coins, or made you aware of a coin by their posts or tweets that made you money?
Yeah, Twitter is interesting because I do love Twitter, and I definitely follow what's going on. And the shilling aspect of Twitter is still very funny to me. But the first person, I would have to divide this up into two categories. The first person, knowledge-wise, honestly, was Luke Martin, just because the way he breaks down a chart and describes what he sees in his movements. I mean, he's a tactician, and I really enjoy reading his posts because he's very descriptive. Obviously, he's knowledgeable. I don't think anybody can be argued with that. And now you could say he's shilling a coin, but I don't exactly see him doing that. More so, he's describing his moves and telling you why he's making the moves, which I actually really appreciate. And that made me dive more into learning technical analysis. And I've never been a really big technical analysis person. Having dabbled in traditional markets, I was doing more fundamental stuff. Basing my trades around that and news events and timing and everything because it mirrors the cryptocurrency ecosystem where, buy the rumors, sell the news. This has been going on for decades. So this isn't new to crypto, that idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as coins, where I was looking at coins that were being shilled, it started with, I think, Crypto Rand and Bitcoin Bravado had just broken onto the scene.
Okay.
So but it was more of like, I wasn't buying the coins that they were shilling. I was more of like looking into the projects that they were shilling. And that's how I started to discover more and more projects. And then see the direct correlation of when it gets mentioned on Twitter to the activity on the chart, which is undeniable in my mind.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've fallen victim to the shill.
Of course, we all have.
Luckily I didn't put in a huge position, but it was like, it was still when I was starting, and it was like it's like 0.1 Bitcoin or something like that. I put into Metablock at the top. It's
we've done it.
Yeah, and I'm still holding part of that bag. But
yeah, I'm a strat victim twice, and never again. Stratus.
Yeah, it's brutal, but so. Are there for ICOs right now? Are there any ICOs that you're thinking about getting into, or any ICOs that have caught your attention?
Let me just go back to the whole. I like the structure of EOS's platform.
Okay.
For every man to get into ICOs if that's what you want to do, because I see the value in that in this ecosystem. I myself do not like ICOs at all.
Okay.
I'm totally against the money grab that ICOs have become. Now, I think they're necessary because it allows startups who otherwise get ignored and who wouldn't obtain funding a way to like maybe realize their tech that they're trying to propose. But it's so convoluted now in my mind, and we need a better structure for ICOs. I have this idea that they're sucking the liquidity out of the market. And I feel that if ICOs were not as plentiful as they are, we would see a narrowing of the money in cryptocurrency back into the projects that actually have substance. And I actually believe Bitcoin would be higher at this moment if we didn't have as many ICOs as we do. Because it spreads the money out and it makes the field wider.
Yeah, and liquidity shrinks. ICOs go down because some of these ICOs are money grabs. So
exactly. So I
fucking money grabs. Yeah.
I look at ICOs, but there's not one I'm interested in right now. I don't do it. I'll wait for it to go on IDEX and get absolutely smoked on IDEX, and then if it's at the bottom or the perceived bottom, I'll try to buy in. But it's not a game I like to play at the moment.
Yeah,
but at the same token, I will, being an EOS holder and they doing the airdrops. I'm glad to receive free tokens that I can just turn into Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my angle.
Absolutely, and that's nice. That's like to me that almost sounds like a dividend, but but that's
it is. It is, but they're not calling it a dividend.
Yeah, it's an airdrop. Airdrop. I love this fucking space. How there's all these new words that I've learned, and spelling of different words like hodl and wrecked. Like
yes,
it's fucking great. I love all of it. I love all of it, and like so yeah. I've been trying to do a lot of research lately, trying to find undervalued gems, and I feel like I've starting to come across some that could have the possibility, low market cap coins. The only thing is, there's one that I found that I may talk about on Twitter here in the future, but I've been looking at now is Commerce Block CBT. It's a little like Chainlink, but
Okay.
that's why I haven't invested in it yet. But I've just been doing some digging, and that's the one I've been reading up on, and I'm kind of interested in. But are there any undervalued gems that you see out there right now, or that you might want to like just mention or briefly talk about?
So there's two. The first one, and both of them are not unheard of, and they're going to be again kind of cliche, but this is just what I see in them. So I do see that WAN at its current price and market cap is actually undervalued. I believe this to be over a $2 billion market cap coin, just from what they're attempting to do, and if they can deliver on the tech, the private cross-chain smart contracts. Yes, the idea of being their own bank, but I like the idea of a virtual window for the user, so you can provide services such as a loan to other members. So in a sense, you become a bank yourself. Like I like that idea of like putting your money to work for you in a traditional way that the average person might not have access to.
Yeah, and
this current moment, I really like that idea.
Sounds very decentralized, Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and then the privacy aspects of it, the distributed ledger, the virtual machine, all the buzzwords, of course. But I do think that WAN Chain, after looking at the team, they're not old school, but they have a history. These business developers, and they're good marketers too, which I think is vital in crypto.
Absolutely,
is marketing. I tend to think that that's almost more important than anything else. Is the marketing. But yeah, I do think WAN is very undervalued. The payments and settlements, and they want to do investing, intrachain transactions. They're a proof of stake coin. So when they do roll out staking, you have to assume masternodes, of course.
Yeah.
Which will drive the value. And their ring signature is really interesting. How they have a one-time address, which would provide anonymity for the receiver of every transaction. I like that. Where you could hold Ethereum and send Ethereum and it'd be private.
Yeah, that would. Yeah.
So, I like that. I do like that. So the WAN's one. Now, this other one is going to be extremely controversial. It's already a $1 billion market cap. Is Stellar. And the reason why I think Stellar is undervalued is because I've been following this project for a very long time. The team that is a part of Stellar that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, and it comes down to, so Patrick Collison is one of the advisors. Now, he's the guy who is the co-founder and CEO of Stripe. I'm sure people are aware what Stripe is. It's a payment. It's for payments.
Okay.
That's a pretty big person to have connected to your project, because earlier this year, Stripe ceased accepting Bitcoin as payment on their network. Okay? Which leads me to believe that somewhere down the road, they're going to integrate Stellar as an accepted form of payment on the Stripe network, which would be huge, because Stripe is used globally right now for swiping credit cards and everything like that. So that's one angle. They also have Matt Mullenweg on their project, who he's considered the co-founder and lead developer of WordPress. Now,
okay.
Do you
WordPress.
know anything about?
Yeah.
If you know anything about the internet, about 33% of the internet runs on WordPress.
100.
That's a pretty magnificent feat.
This podcast runs off of WordPress. I mean, that's a huge.
Right. And so to have someone like that, again, not just for his brain, but his connections and his influence on technology globally. And then if you pair him with Naval Ravikant, who he founded AngelList. Okay? He is an angel investor. Twitter, Uber, Stack, Overflow. And Naval Ravikant is considered one of the leaders in angel investing. So you have these three guys that I just mentioned backing this platform, which is a nonprofit, by the way. Stellar Lumens is a nonprofit. Now, there's some controversy, I know, who Jed McCaleb, who co-founded Ripple. He was one of the developers of Ripple. He actually was the guy who created Mt. Gox before it was Mt. Gox and sold it to Carpellis. I don't know if many people even know that. But Jed left Ripple because he didn't like the road that they were trying to go down. So he started Stellar Lumens instead as a nonprofit. And Stellar really is focusing on banking the unbanked, and they've been going in third world countries. And they've been integrating into cell phones over there. They're trying to. Now, Nokia is a big player in the secondary markets ever since they got pretty much kicked out of first world markets because of Apple and the rise of Android and everything like that. So they have a really good handle globally on secondary markets. And also, Stellar is a platform that you can launch Paycos on. But what makes Stellar very unique is that their technology is very lightweight. So you can plug into the Stellar network, but you don't necessarily need to be a cryptocurrency to use Stellar to launch your tech, which is very interesting because you're not bound to being in the crypto sphere, which people would like, well, that defeats the purpose. But in my mind, it allows for more use case if you're not bound to being a cryptocurrency. So which means I can launch an ICO on Stellar, but I don't have to have a cryptocurrency. And so I can use the Stellar network and I can use the Stellar token.
Yeah.
But I don't need to produce a token myself. Mm-hmm. So people are like, oh, that's a money grab. But in my it adds value to the Stellar network, which their aim is to have zero fees, which their fees are, I think it's 0.000001 Stellar is the network fee for a transaction, which is, we're talking fractions of a penny here.
Yeah, that's wow.
So it's an interesting project. It's lightning fast, but again, there's a lot of controversy around it. It's because of the high supply and the valuation of it is already in the billions. So these are just projects that I'm paying attention to. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've been under the impression I'm starting to think that some of the better investments in crypto may be top 10, top 20 coins, right? Especially with the fears of there being coins out there that are scams. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, in my opinion, 90% of them are. But I could see a coin like Stellar being stable and doing well, going up, especially with some of the stuff that you mentioned. I could see it doing well. That's definitely undervalued. Very. It's a top 7 coin. It's a top 10 coin. Coins up there, they scare me a little bit, but I feel like those are the coins that are gonna. I'd like to get into a coin that eventually becomes top 10. I always get scared of investing in top 10. A lot of people are starting to do it. I haven't yet. I'm just but it could do very well. I mean, if you look at its upside, I mean, it's right now it's a $5.5 billion market cap. If this market grows to where they think it's going to grow, how much of an increase will this see? You could see a substantial growth. So it's
controversial. I will completely admit, and some people are going to think that out of my mind, but
yeah.
it's
possible.
Also,
Anything's possible.
I'm looking at it from its actual use case on a global scale, and the market that it's going after needs help. Like, they need help in these third world countries becoming their own bank and managing money and not being fleeced by their own government, any of these socialist and totalitarian economies. So I'm looking at it more of like helping the people point of view. That's my angle, because I want to see people that need help actually get the help that they deserve. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I feel bad for a lot of the people out there.
I do.
Some people.
And that's from living in Vietnam, by the way. That's why because I've kind of been in the trenches of a socialist country, so I've seen it.
Yeah, well, I go by El Cripto Cubano, as you know, and my parents are Cuban, so I'm Cuban. I was born here, though, but they got out of a country that was there was a revolution and became a communist dictatorship. They got out. My dad got out right away, fortunately, but my mom, she was there for quite some time. Watched her father get arrested and beat up by Revolutionary Guard. That's
Wow.
yeah. It's just I never saw that stuff, but that's what that generation saw. They were tough as nails. They went through some shit. A lot of people. The way it is now, it's. I feel like everybody thinks everything in America is bad and racist and this and that, but like we have it so good here. We have it so good compared to all these other countries. It's crazy. We need to take care of our people better. I think people need to always think of that, and I love taking care of people. I'm like I want to when I make it one day, when I'm absolutely filthy rich out of the crypto industry, I will try my best. I will try my best to help everybody that's in need, especially people that I know that are struggling. Because I know I've struggled before. This market really changed that. So I'm very grateful for that. So it's always helping others is great. That's awesome. That's a good purpose. So all right, well. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Just last question before. So the future of crypto. Obviously, you're bullish on Bitcoin.
Yes.
We're not going to make any predictions or anything like that. But, is there any coin that 5 years from now you'll be glad that you hold now? Like, if you were to pick one, you don't have to fully explain it. But if there was one, if you could pick between, say, Bitcoin and Ethereum, which one would you rather have 5 years from now?
I just gotta go with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no team. There's nobody to take it down. I see the value in something that can't be controlled.
Yeah, I hear
That's
that.
what it is.
I hear that decentralization, baby.
Exactly.
All right, well, hey man, thanks for coming on the show. This is absolutely fantastic. We had a great talk. You're very knowledgeable. I really enjoyed having you on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And, if you want to say any last words to anybody, a message for the noobs or listeners,
I do have a message for the noobs. Okay, you're gonna have a bad trade. You're gonna make terrible mistakes. You're not gonna die from them. Okay, always take profits. Don't be afraid to take profits. And especially do not be afraid to get out of a losing trade. There's too many people in this space that hold because of the hopes that the coin will bounce back, which may be true. But if you're down 20-30% on a coin, are you gonna exit that coin, let's say if you break back to even, or are you more likely to stay in that coin thinking, well, now I'm gonna hold for profits and end up holding in the red again? So don't be afraid to get out of a losing trade. It's okay. You'll live.
All right. I like that. I definitely learned from similar things like that. Great. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on. It was awesome. We'll be back probably next week. I'm hoping twice. I'm going to have hopefully a guest on soon that's actually in the process of starting his own exchange with a group of people. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks, Kane, for coming on. John Wicks, CryptoKane42 on Twitter, and we'll be talking in the dojo, I'm sure, in the Discord. And thank you again, everybody. Have a good night. Stay green and stay easy.